maybe do some cleanup, and then that would be the goal for today's stream. If I am joined by friends or wanderers, and they type into the chat, I will answer back on stream. And let's go ahead and get started with this. I'm doing some chores right now, so take that off. And as you can see, I have her in her outfit. And we are going to go to the figure, and we're going to go to clothing. And as you can see, I don't have everything set up, so I'm going to set some stuff up. I'm going to do a layer mask here. And then we're going to invert it, and that will set that up. Okay. I want to reference the clothes. So I got to reference two different layers. This is layer 1. So we're going to reference that layer. And we're going to go to shade. And normally I would do the darkest brown, and that's what I'm going to do now. And then we're going to have to plop this brown into every article here. So because this is assisted, what's going to happen is when I plop this brown into one side, it should automatically duplicate to the other side. And then we'll see it on this layer here. So it'll let us know that it's going in the right spot. I'm gonna do this one. And then the pants. And then the shirt. I think the gloves is on this layer. Let's see. And then the tail piece. And as you can see, it did it. I forgot to assist this layer on the other side. So I could do something like this. I could just clear it, drawing assist, and then do it again. And to explain this, and I think I might have explained it in a previous stream, is you go here and you hit this word alpha lock. And what that will do is that'll make it so that nothing will travel outside of the edges of your layer. And why that is important is because if you, the gloves are on this layer too. Let's do the gloves. If you go outside of the layer, you will color the outside as well. And I know a lot of you be like, well, you got this black around it. You know, why does that even matter? Because you got the black around it, right? So that means that you can't see anything that you go on the outside of that layer, right? It may seem that way, but let's say I wanted to print this out. If there is a slight color change in the layer, in the image, the printer is going to pick that up and it's going to print that out. And so I want to keep it contained. So to keep it contained, after I get all my mask on there, and it matches that layer there, then I would hit alpha lock. But I also have socks. If you notice, I have socks. And if I took this layer off here, the silhouette, you will notice that there's socks there. And so that's on its own separate layer. And inquiring minds would want to know why. Why is there socks on the separate layer? And the earrings are too. Well, just in case I wanted to do another variation of the character when I go to make the digital print out, then I would have two variations. I could have a nude variation with just socks on, and that would be a second variation of the character. Okay, and if you work in the NFT market, you know that what you could do is you could sell one variation, and then you could sell another variation, and then you could sell another variation. And they do that because then they could say, oh, there's only 100 variations of this object here, but there are 300 variations of that one. Okay, and then you gotta, you got some kind of marketplace for that and whatnot. So that explains that. And if you do two silhouettes like this, then that means you're probably going to want to do two variations of clothing. And so I have a problem solved for that one as well. If I want to do two variations of clothing, I'm going to have to copy the clothing here, and I'm going to have to do a second clothing. I could keep all of the clothing in one group, and it would just take a little while, but I would just say duplicate that, clear this, okay? Then I would take this layer and I would move it into this layer, and it'll create a new group. Okay. Then I would take this silhouette and I would move the silhouette into the new group. And I know what this is called, so I'm going to rename it. And now it's named Socks and Earrings. And now that's telling me what's in that layer. Well, shoes are going to go over socks and earrings. Okay, but I got a problem because the shirt can't go over the socks and the earrings. And so the layer is not completely conducive. Okay, so now what I would have to do is I'd have to go back and maybe make a layer just for my earrings. If you don't know where if you can't see my earrings, let me take this off here. They are right here, and you can see the hoops in there. The earrings would be on their own layer because they are in front, and you have to think of it like a paper cutout. You have to think of it as if you have a layer on top, a layer in the middle, a layer on the bottom. And so in this instance, what I would do is I would cut the earrings out, and that's a simple thing to do. You just take your lasso tool, You make sure you're on the right layer. Oops, let me do that there. Make sure you're on the right layer. I like to check twice. Sometimes I'm a little OCD about that. And then you just lasso around the thing you want. And then you go and you cut it out. And see, her earrings are now gone. But nothing got destroyed. Okay? Then you paste it. And now they're back. And because it's a perfect cut, they're back. So now they're on their own layer. And of course, they call the pasted image the inserted image. Then I can move it out of this layer. Just call it what it is. We're going to call it. And I call the first layers always silhouettes because later on you're going to find out that when I do the silhouettes, they kind of become the base layer for everything else, for the drawing, for the coloring. Which reminds me that now that I've taken all of those out of that layer, I'm going to want to make this layer its own layer. But before I do that, let's duplicate the color. And let's move it into here. And let's duplicate it again later. And sometimes I may want to draw before I color. Most of the time, I treat the outfits as if they are realistic. I don't know how to explain this to you, but when you put a black line around something, it makes it cartoony. When you erase that black line, it makes it realistic. Okay? And so sometimes I like to treat my clothing as if they're realistic objects, and so I don't put the black line around it. But let's just say I wanted to draw a logo or something on the clothing. Then the drawing layer is there, and I can just draw the logo right there on top of the clothing, and it all fits in there. Okay? So that explains that. And I have done that before. So now that socks and earrings has been completed, I'm going to close that one. And I'm going to rename this just socks, because it's just socks. Why is it doing that? Why is it doing that? All right, there we go. And now the socks are contained in its own layer. And then the earrings, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the socks. I'm going to duplicate the lighting effects. And then I'm going to duplicate the shade effects. And it might be a little jarring to kind of keep up with this stuff, but the way to keep up with it is to just make sure you have a systems of operations in which your layer orders are in a specific order. And then that way you will know, hey, this is how the order is going to go on this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to collapse these into itself, and we're going to create a new layer by doing that. So you just always start with the bottom layer and collapse it into the top layer. Okay, and then we could pull the silhouette in. And I put the silhouette at the top, but it's going to be at the bottom later. And I'm just going to put it here. Actually, I should just do that. Now pick it to the bottom. And then I'm going to put the color right in between there. And then I'm going to call this earrings. And then that's that. And now it's collapsed. And now the only thing I need to do is I need to group this layer here. So we're going to group this by pulling silhouette on top of the light. And then we're going to put the shade in the middle of that. We're going to put the color in the middle of that. And then we're going to put the drawing in the middle of that. Right? And then we're going to call this outfit. Outfit. And now we collapse it. And now all of the clothing is inside of a group. And each group of clothing has its own group. And the clothing is in order. The earrings would be on top because they're on top of the outfit. The socks would be in the middle because they are on top of the skin. And the outfit would be last because it's on top of the skin and the socks, but it's not on top of the earrings. Okay? And so it's like, it's weird because it's like, well, that doesn't make sense, right? But it does. As a matter of fact, I think maybe the earrings need to be on the bottom, because the earrings are going to be the last thing and not the first thing. So just change the order. There we go. So that's the right order. The outfit first. Is that the right order? Let me make sure. Because when we go to color this thing, you're going to see if it's out of order, stuff will be on top and it'll look weird. I think it's going to go that the socks are the last thing. So let's see. Take the earrings off. Take the outfit off. And now we just have a person with socks on. Put the outfit on. Put the earrings on. There we go. So that's the right order for that. And the order is dependent upon the pose. So, you know, it could get a little hairy if you got things clipping between things or clipping behind things or things touching things and stuff like that. Then you're going to have to create a hierarchy where the thing in front is on top. We would call that the foreground. In my case, I would probably name it foreground or something like that, and then that would be in the front, and that would probably be on top of everything. But once you figure it out for yourself, then you'll know what to do. So I am going to stop for a second, and I'm going to go and check my my laundry, and I'm going to mute this, and then I will come back, and then we will continue the coloring of the outfit of this character. So it's just a short pause. And I'm back. And here's what we're going to do now. So I don't know why this color drop thing is it glitched out because of the way you have to pull from the corner of the iPad to do pauses and stuff, but it's gonna go away. So now that I've done that, now let's talk about how to color the outfits and the stuff. First off, I'm going to need to do the lighting effect. So normally for my light, I do the lightest color, and in this case it would be that color. Sometimes white is best. Sometimes you could just go black and white, and that'll be the easier way to do stuff. Matter of fact, I'm just going to do that right now. And so just like with the first layer here, you're going to have to color drop everything into the clothing. And this is the way I'm showing you how to do it is like just the way I have done it up to date, because in the past when I learned how to do it this way, I did not do object specific shading, and so my shading would be out of the whole thing. So like for instance, the lighting effect, the whole layer would be white, and the shading, the whole layer would be a dark color. And when I went to do shading and light, I'd have to go back and keep using the eraser tool and stuff like that, because it would be outside of the lines of the object. And so I learned to do it this way, which is an easier way. The other way is to get the lines to stay inside of the object, is you would mask the layer to an object that was solid and you already had like the color in there. So for instance, the color layer would be on the would stay in the inside, and then I just mask the layers on top of the color, and so then that way the shadow would not go beyond the border of the color. Okay, but then I found out that later on I could do something like I could color the whole layer one solid color, and then mask the layers on top of it, and then that would do the same thing. But my problem that I run into is that the silhouette would have to be masked to the color, and then all the layers would be masked in a chain link to that. And if I wanted to do a drawing, then I have to do the drawing on top of the color. Okay, and I guess it's not a big deal or anything like that. You know, it's up to the artist how the artist wants to do something. But I just find that by doing it this way, I don't have to do mask layers anymore. I could just do it this way, and it's just easier for me to do it that way. I could take the color layer and I can reference the color layer. I'm sorry, I could reference the silhouette layer. Go backwards. Okay, and then I could color the outfit, the colors that it needs to be colored in, by just doing the color drop, just like you saw me do, and it will drop the color into the outfit. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that right now. So as long as the outfit is not connecting, so like for instance, this is not connecting to that, it's separate pieces, when you go to color it, like if I color these pants green or something, they're just going to be green. And the rest of it's still going to be brown. So, like I said, let me demonstrate that to you right now. We are going to go with, I like purple apparently because I use it in most of my designs. So I'm going to go with this. Let's go with this purple here first. And the cool thing about this is like you could change it. You could just change the color if you want. Y'all don't like this color. You can just change it. It's just going to change that color. It's not going to mess or affect with anything else. So, purple pants. The pants are purple. Voila. Okay. The bandage. Let's just say that the bandage on the tail is white. I usually like to do a bone color and not a white color. Okay, bam. See? And then the shoes, let's say, you know, we want the shoes to be red or green or orange or brown or black. Whatever color you want them to be, you just find the color you want and you plop it in there and it colors the whole thing. Okay? So, green is a clashy color with purple. Yellow is a very clashy color with purple. Blue is a tacky color for purple. Depending upon the type of green we go with can depend upon some aspects. If we want a shaded green or if we just wanted a desaturated green. Let's do a shaded green. Let's see what it looks like. Didn't do anything. Let me make sure. Oh, I know why I didn't do anything because I didn't select it. There we go. So now you can see where I had my problem now. Now my shoes, my socks are underneath my shoes. So that I have to fix that. Okay. So I might have to put the socks on a different layer. Or I could take the socks and stick them inside of the outfit layer. And that might solve the problem too. Or it might make the problem worse. So let's do the easy thing first. Whoops, it grabbed something else. There we go. So let's put it on the inside. There we go. So see, as you can see now, the socks are on the inside, the shoes are on the inside of the socks. So if I took the whole outfit off, her socks would go off too. I'd have to go in and individually turn these off. So that would be a problem. I wouldn't want that because that would be a problem. So it seems like the easier solution is to put the socks on its own layer. I'm sorry, to put the shoes on its own layer. And leave the socks on the layer. So the socks are already on its own layer. Let's undo it. Maybe I could just put the socks underneath the outfit. And that works. Outfit comes off, socks are still on. Outfit goes on, socks are still on. Earrings come off, outfit and socks are still on. Socks and earrings come off and everything still works. So I didn't have to make any major changes. So that is good. Okay, so now we want to color the shirt. Let's go back to the outfit. And let's do the color for the shirt. Now, the important thing to remember is in order to get this to work is that you always have to turn the reference layer on to the thing that you're referencing. Because as long as that reference layer is on something, whenever you go to color drop, it will either color drop outside of the reference or inside of the reference, depending upon how you color drop it. We could go with a light green shirt. That would be very techy, very Joker-esque colors. If I did a light green shirt. If I did a red shirt, that would probably be clashy. So you can always go with a crazy color shirt too. And that would work. So I'm thinking like this green might work. I might like this green here. So make sure that I'm on the right layer, and I am. And we color drop that into the shirt, and now the whole shirt is green. Okay. So now you notice that everything has got its color, and everything is very, very flat. Okay. The character has the shade and the light, and the outfit does not. Just nothing to make it feel like it's actually on the character. And so that's where, of course, these layers come in at. We can now use these layers to add shading and lighting into this this character. Okay. And the cool thing about that is now if I don't need the reference here, I can just put the reference on these layers on top, and it'll do the same thing. But because the silhouette is just is the base layer for all these other ones, I don't need to reference and turn it off and on unless I'm just going quickly between different layers, and I just have to keep remembering to do that. The other thing is that because the layers, the shaded layer is now alpha locked, nothing should travel beyond the outside of that layer, from what I do on the layer mask. And with the layer mask, I taught you last session that I always like to start with the darkest gray first and then work my way up. And as I work my way up to the lightest color, that makes the shading darker because it's inversed. And so you have to keep that in mind, that you inversed it. That means that the darkest color is going to be the lightest color, and the lightest color or value scale, grayscale, is going to be the darkest color. Okay, so you just got to keep that in mind. So I created a grayscale at the top, as you can see, but then I got a mini grayscale back down here. And what that does is it takes everything away by 3. So instead of going to that one, I'm going to this one. And so I skip that one by doing this and this. Now, if I was doing a full illustration, I may want to use all of these layers, but that would be overkill because the eye is going to kind of blur between what's really, really light versus what's really, really dark. And so, and the same thing with a printer. The printer is also going to do the same thing too. It's going to say, oh, this is really, really dark, so I'm going to print it really the darkest color I can get it. Oh, this is really, really light, so I'm going to print it the lightest color I can get it. And then everything in between that is just a grayscale. And that's what the printer will do. So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing stuff. What's overkill versus what's practical, and what will get the job done, relatively quickly, or relatively in a good amount of time. So enough talk. I'm going to go on ahead and start doing what I need to do. Okay, I got them here, but I don't got them in the light. The light. So let's do that. So I noticed like, well, people be like, well, this is so confusing. You should just paint what you see, or paint what you imagine, and why would you do it this way? And to that, I gotta say, brain space. When you imagine something and you paint from your imagination, you're using up your brain space. Okay. You ever notice that yourself, you're getting tired as you draw and you get burned out? We like to coin the term, we're getting burned out. Okay. Well, that is because you are using your imagination to a point where your brain is overworked. That's not what I want to do. Yes, yes, it is. And so you want to limit that overworkedness by delegating some things to make it just a little bit simpler to understand when you're making stuff. I'm not going to need this drawing later, so I'm going to get rid of it. And so they have these tools here so that you can learn how to use them, so that you do not need to overthink the process of what you're doing. Okay? And if I wasn't, on the stream just trying to explain what I'm doing here, I would be able to just do this and like within a couple of hours or so have it completed, and I would know all the steps. And the only time my brain would get hooked, would get hung up, would be if I couldn't figure out something because something wasn't working, and I needed to troubleshoot that so that it would work properly. See what I'm saying? So that's why you kind of go through these steps to figure out like how it's going to work, so that each time you create a new character, a new piece, you just get a little bit faster because you know now how it's working, and you've created a map for yourself on how it's supposed to work. Okay, that's the only thing that I can say. Like as you get older, in age, no matter what it is that you're doing, your brain is just the space is just going to, be preoccupied with other things. Like, oh, it's time to eat. Oh, I have to go and check out on this baby. Oh, so and so might be hungry. That, and they're not me. I'm not the one that's hungry, but so and so might be. Okay, I'm taking care of this. I'm taking care of that. I need this to go away. And I don't know why it's not going away. Usually if I do this, it would go away, but it's not. It's glitching on me. Go away, dang it. Dang you. Well, anyway, so, that's why you create stages in your art. And yeah, it's mechanical. It feels mechanical. Does it feel like it's natural? Does it feel like, the feng shui or whatever it is that you want to call it, when you're making your art and, but the Zen, it doesn't, it might not feel natural, but you've built up a way to work on your design so that it just makes it easier for you to work at something. It just, you're no longer just beholden to, oh man, that's not working. I gotta go and dip my brush in. I gotta figure out what color I use. I gotta hit this button over here and try and get that thing there, and then, oh man, that's not right. And you're sitting there and you're wasting time going through strokes of color trying to figure out what you did, when you have already mechanicalized it and you already say, oh, this is how I can do it. I do it like this. Just drop it in, boom, 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 and then it becomes quicker to do. Okay, if I'm sitting here and I'm drawing a picture from life, and I'm drawing a picture of something I see, I'm doing the same thing. It's mechanical in my head. I already got the steps already worked out. So all I'm doing now is I'm just going through the motions of getting the object done. Okay? So, like, if you sit and watch, like, I like to watch, one of my favorite streamers is Jim Lee. Okay? Jim Lee has been doing what he's been doing for a very long time. And one of my favorite lines that he says on stream quite often is, when I was younger, I was always trying to find the quickest way to do something and the most efficient way to do it so that I didn't have to spend crazy amount of money on art supplies. Where someone else is sitting there, they're telling me that I got to spend, $200, $300 on a brush, to get a specific look on a piece of artwork to look good. I'm sitting here thinking, why do I got to spend that when I can just, I could take shoe polish paint, shoe polish and use it as paint. And it does the same thing. And it's cheaper to do it. So he's like, I was always looking for the most cost-effective way to make a piece of art and to make it look good. Okay? And I found, like, when he said that, I thought to myself, well, you know what? What's weird about that is I'm not professional, but I've been doing that myself. Like, I buy the cheapest paint set, and then I would find a way to use it effectively to make it look like it was an expensive set of colors that I used to make that piece, that paint, that artwork. Okay, and literally, like, a lot of people don't know this, but you could buy varnish. Varnish is like cheap, glossy like thing. Okay, you could buy varnish, real dirt cheap. Okay, you can make a painting using like acrylic paint. Heck, you probably even do just archival print. Okay, spray fix it down, maybe mat it to a piece of cardboard or something. Put varnish over top of it. It looks like a painting. It looks like a a veneer or something. Real cheap, done expensive stuff. Okay? And artists don't know that they can do that. When I went to school, the first thing they did is they made us buy all these really, really expensive paints. Okay? Expensive paints, really expensive paints. They called it an art kit. And you had to buy this art kit. And the art kit was probably a couple $100. Okay? And you would buy that art kit, and the art kit supposedly came with everything you were going to need for every class you were going to take. So once you got that art kit, once you bought that art kit, then you would have everything you needed. So then when you were to take the courses, you wouldn't have to look for, if they say you needed this to, in your course, you wouldn't have to go and find it because you had it in the art kit already. Okay? They're teaching us at at the college I went to, they're teaching us high frequency design, So they're telling us we got to buy this stuff to make our stuff look like professional. And, when I was in school, I was green. I didn't know, anything because I went to an art high school, and at the art high school, they bought our materials from like an art shop, and those materials were still expensive even though they were from an art shop. So, you buy like Prismacolors. If you ever buy a set of Prismacolors, the 100 pack plus set, you're going to spend $200. Who knows what you're spending now? You probably spend $300. Okay? But that's what you would spend. And, that wasn't a part of our art kit. Most of our art kit was comprised of paint. But the paint was Winster paint. Pretty expensive stuff. Okay? And I guess my problem with that, and I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, is that it seems like what the art teachers should have been teaching us is how to find the cheapest crap you could find that gave you the best quality looking work. Okay? And the only way we could figure this information out is that we talk to each other and say, oh, you know what? They're telling you to buy this. you should buy that. It's cheaper. It's the same stuff. Okay? But we were green, so we didn't know. You don't know this stuff. You just do what you're told. Okay? And so, like I said, I feel kind of like, and I love my art education. I'm not going to ever say that my art education was bad or I regret going to school, because I sure as hell do not. Because without going to school, I'd never be able to have the job I got. And even though, the job that I have is still, maybe you can or cannot consider it to be in the field of art, I feel like I'm still working in art, because I'm not working on the side where you make it for a client. I'm working on the side where you teach it to a client. Okay. And maybe that side's not, you don't get as much money on that side of the art divide as you would being a person who could say, hey, you're going to pay me $2,000 to do this. But you're still professionally in the game. And so I would not have been able to get that job, okay, if I didn't have my degree. Okay. I wouldn't be able to become like a college professor if I wanted to if I didn't have my degree. See what I'm saying? And so, like, there is a perk to having a degree in something, and that is that, you do get to become a professional. You do get to kind of like teach it if you want to. Okay. They don't allow you to be a teacher unless you got a degree. It's just it's the truth. I hate to tell you that. Anybody who's in art wants to be an art teacher. Okay. Somebody asked me, what does it take to be an art teacher? Because they wanted to be an art teacher. And I told them, I was like, well, first off, why do you want to be an art teacher? Because if you think, it's just a stepping stone to becoming a professional artist, well, that's part of the battle, yes. But here's another part that you might not have thought of. And that part is, if you teach art, you may never actually be a person who's going to create art. You don't have to be a creator of art to teach it, per se. You just need to have a teaching degree. Okay? But if you decide that that's what you want to do, then the next problem, I guess, with that is, and I know that that's not dry, so I'm gonna have to go in there and put that back on for another 20 minutes, because I know that is not right. That chimed too quickly. It's not been 45 minutes. So anyway, what I was saying is, like, you got to have a degree. So that's the first thing. The second thing is why do you want to do it? Why do you want to teach it? If you feel like it's a job, just like every other job. But, if you feel like you are going to make some sort of a difference, you might. But I'm just here to tell you that, there is a lot of management, and a lot of the management can deal with kids who have problems that you didn't foresee. And you could be ended up just being a person that manages those problems and not necessarily doing much teaching. Okay? And this is serious, you got to have these discussions with yourself. And I didn't want to discourage that person from what they thought their dream was, but I wanted to let them know that, it ain't easy street. What I'm doing, what I do, what other people do, that's not easy. You do have to prepare for what happens if. Because you might end up finding out that, oh my goodness, I'm stuck here, and I'm just managing somebody's behavior, and I'm not really teaching anything, because it's all about, trying to get them to understand how to behave before I can actually show them how to do something. Okay? So there's all kinds of caveats with jobs. With professional artists, there is the cancellation of a project. You've been working on a project for months, and then suddenly they upend and say, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to go with something else, And now you've worked all this time doing something that you thought was going to become a product that was going to be shown off, that you could then say, look at this product that was put into the world. I created that. Okay? And then it doesn't happen. How are you going to feel? That's the question. And so you have to ask yourself these questions when you want to go into these fields. It's like, how how much are you willing to love it? Okay, how much are you willing to love it? And so, like, I go back to Jim Lee and how he says, he one of the artists that I watched, he says like how he has worked his way up. How did he know he was going to be working at DC, and then suddenly DC gets bought by company X, and then suddenly now he's the head of the art department at DC. Shot in the dark. That's not why he wanted to work in comics. He wanted to work in comics because he just wanted to freaking draw the characters he liked. Okay? So that's where you have to figure out where your love is. And, I'm going to say when I took my teaching, I just kind of like, I wasn't thinking about it. I was just thinking about, like, that I would be paid more money than I was making at Blockbuster. That I was moving out of just being poor class to being maybe into the middle class. And so that's what I was thinking about. And for several years, I didn't have a groove, and I just didn't know, like, what I was doing, why I was doing it, why it was important, stuff like that. Because there's nobody that's going to sit there and say, well, you're doing something and it's very important. You might get some of those people to say that, but they're just saying that to keep you in the game. You have to figure out why what you're doing is important. Okay? Why does it matter? I'm on the wrong layer. Undo. Let's take the assistance off. This is what happens when I talk. You have to create that importance in your mind as to why it's important. It's important for someone to be there to teach a younger student that a younger person that you can have a lucrative career. You need to have fun with what you're creating. You need to have fun with what you're going to do. Okay? If you want to be a football player, you're going to need to have fun getting hit. Okay? If you're going to be a soldier, you're going to need to have fun being in pain and shooting weapons. If you're going to be a basketball player, you're going to need to have fun learning how to throw a ball into a hoop. Okay? If you're going to be an artist, you need to learn to have fun making objects and making art, and not worry about, all of the idiosyncrasies that come into the things that you got to do. You're going to have to learn, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to have fun doing these things. And so if you got that down, then you're going to be good at your job, even if you're not a superstar. And I think that's where, we kind of mess up, because that's what we're thinking about. Is we're thinking about the superstar status, and we're not thinking about the are we having fun yet status. And that's what, when I became a teacher, I wasn't even thinking about being a superstar. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to be a superstar teacher. I still say that to myself. I'm not going to be the favorite teacher. You know, I'm not gonna get the parking lot spot for best teacher in the world or anything like that. That's not my goal. But my goal is to be fair and to deliver the content that I need to deliver. And so I made a conscious decision early on that you know, my hobby was going to be my hobby, and my teaching was going to be my teaching. And so I had to make that decision. You know, some people make their hobby in life the same thing, and they're very good at doing that. And I applaud them for doing that. But I didn't want to do that because I know the kind of art that I like to make is not the socially acceptable art that, like, you know, a teacher would like to. You know, you should teach. And so I don't, you know, I feel like I made that decision, and that's the decision I made, and that's the decision I'm sticking with. And yes, I can still do my art on the side, and I can still be a teacher. Okay, and so I had to make that decision. And so when you're looking at your career and trying to figure out what you want to do with your career, that's what you got to figure out. And once you figure that out, and you make that that equilibrium with yourself, then things fall into place because you know when you're supposed to do something and when you're not supposed to do something and how you're supposed to do it and stuff like that. Okay. And like I said, it just kind of goes down to what do you want to do with this? You know, in the last stream I said I'm not a superstar streamer. I'm not a superstar. You know, I'm not doing that kind of work. I am going to turn this completely black. Let's see what that does. So, you know, my heroes are the people who have they've done the stuff, and they've gone through that pain, and they say, hey, you know what, I came out on the other side, I'm still going through the pain. I like the pain helps me gives me clarity of mind. And you know, I love solving the problems, and that's what I like to do, is I like to solve the problems. I'm a problem, you know, I like to do that. Okay. So, I got the first shadow layer on the character, and I took the layer out of assisted, and now I'm just going to kind of knock back a little bit of the symmetry, just a little bit, so that it's not completely symmetrical on both sides, because it's not supposed to be. And there we go. Here we go. All right. So I ranted a little bit too much there, and I probably got a little off topic, and I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try not to do that for every stream. I'm trying to be a little bit better. Just to kind of give you an update on what I did. So I don't have to continuously copy and uncopy and copy and uncopy, is I had taken the silhouette out of alpha lock mode. And the reason why I did that is because if I have edges that I don't want to show anymore, I can just erase the edges on the silhouette, and the edges will disappear in the outfit. And if I have edges I need to draw into the outfit, I can draw them on the silhouette, and then that will bring it back into the outfit. Okay. And so I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but let's just say I could take this silhouette and I could just copy it, and then I can go into the shade and I can just paste it. And now it's pasted into the, it's pasted, but it's inserted, which is not what I wanted. So then after I pasted that, then I can go to the shade layer. And I don't want to do that. That would be wrong. So what I was going to say is I could merge it down. But if I merge it down, it will merge the layer mask into the shade, and that is not what I want to do. So I'm going to say that that won't work. But I could redraw. I can draw on the silhouette, and then and then I can draw on the shade and the light outside of alpha lock. But as long as it's in alpha lock, I can't draw on the layer. If that makes any sense to anybody. So sometimes you just want to be a little bit more perfect with how you're doing something. So here we go. I am going to, what I need to do next is I need to do the tail, the bandage on the tail. And I need to fix that up. So I'm going to go up here. And I need to knock the bandage back some. So we're going to erase a little bit. There we go. Erase a little bit more. And so all I'm doing now is I'm just trying to make it a perfect fit so that it feels like it's going around, you know, it's fitting perfectly around the object. I can go back now and on my shadow layer, my shaded layer, just make sure that we have put the shade on the tail on this part, and we hadn't. So as you can see now, it went into shade. So now I can play around with this and fix just a little part here before we get started with that. All right, and so now I could play around with making this look like a bandage just by using shade instead of trying to use line. And that's what I guess I meant by more realistic. And the one thing I didn't do, which I will go back and do a little bit later, is I will go back and I will start to use the black to erase the white areas. And the cool thing about this is you could use black or you could just use the eraser tool. Eraser will always bring you back to the actual color. And then the grayscales can tint you up and down, tint and shade up and down the colors. So if you go with a darker shade, then you get a darker line. Go with a lighter shade, you get a lighter line. So this is shaded pretty light, so I don't think I wanted to do that. So I'm gonna, there we go, goes back. And now we get darker. Nope. What is going on with this? Oh, wrong layer. Let's go here. There we go. Let's go here. Sometimes I will lock these layers because we're gonna turn this one. We're gonna go straight up black on this. Sometimes I will lock the layers because if you don't lock them, like you'll get into the problem where you're working on the wrong layer, and that happens quite often if I'm not paying attention. I'll be working on the wrong layer and not realize it. I'm not locking them right now because I don't want to get into the lock unlock problem where I have to keep. As you can see, I had to go on my layer thing like 5 times to figure out what I was doing. Just as long as you know what you're doing, though, you can walk your way out of any mistake without having to hit the undo button if you're paying attention to yourself. And I guess it's kind of a staple of digital artists that sometimes you can go a little too far without paying attention to yourself, and then later on you have to undo something 50 times because you weren't paying attention that you were doing it wrong. And so I'm always paying attention. And if I put that first mark down and it doesn't look like it's doing what I needed to do, I try to go back right then and there and troubleshoot so I can figure out why I got something odd that I didn't expect. Okay, so that's just something. And as you can see, like jumping off topic a little bit, or rather I should say segueing to a different spot, as you can see, like just by doing the shadow layer now on this, I call it a bandage, you can see that I am it looks like I'm drawing on top of the color, and it looks like I am it's not a line, although it is a series of lines. It doesn't look like it's an outline. It looks like it's a part of the object. And so if like you want to do just 3D artwork and you want your artwork to have that 3D feel to it, you can always get rid of heavy outlines and you could just work with shaded lines, and then that will help your object look more realistic. Okay, so you can see that that's what I'm doing there. The shoes are going to be complicated. With the last character I did using shoes, I just colored parts of the shoes differently so that they would look more like they were shoes. That, so if like I had a white part, I would just figure out what part of that was going to be white. If I had black soles or something like that, I would just figure out what part. Me personally, if I may speak candidly about myself, I'm a single color shoe guy. I'm not into shoes that have 3 and 4 colors, are very like standout-ish. I like my shoes to be like, I wear solid black Nikes, Air Nikes, solid black. Maybe it has a little bit of white in it. I don't think so. I don't think anything on the shoe is white. Now that I'm looking at it, it's just solid black. The whole thing, though, everything, the rims, all of it. Okay, so that's the kind of guy I am. But I know other people, they don't do that. They like their shoes to have lots and lots of color. And so What I would do in this case is I would make the shoes like uh, two color. Two color is tolerable. The color of the shoe and then a neutral color, the color of the shoe and then its complementary color, which is very will clash, are the color of the shoe and then a lighter color on top of that color. So for instance, if you have a green shoe, you could get a lighter green on top of it that's almost close to white. And that would be, pretty cool to do. So I'm going to do that with this shoe. So we're going to get the lightest pastel-y green. So we're going to go with maybe that green. And that's like a mint green. And then, you can do things with that. So that's what I'm going to do with this shoe. The sole. So let's make sure that we're alpha locked here. I mean, that we're drawing assist here, because we want this is completely symmetrical to the other shoe. So if we just draw on one shoe, we will get a symmetrical effect on the other shoe. So the first thing I would do is I just start off with the rim. So let's just start off with the rim. And the funny thing about this is that because I'm using pure color, I'm going to have to go back and forth between the colors to get this to look right. Okay, and here's a pro tip. You see how that color is a little darker? We're going to undo that. So here's what you need to know. Because I already put the shade on top of that color, I'm going to have to get rid of the shaded layer, turn off the shaded layer, go back to my original green color I had, and then select that one, okay? And so then I can put the shaded layer back on, and now when I erase the line with the color, you see it just turns it back to its original color, okay? And so you just have to keep in mind that if you have a shaded layer, that you gotta make sure that you're selected with the right color, because if you select on top of the shaded layer, it will it will make the color darker if you're coloring directly on top of the color. Okay. So we're gonna slowly do this. And I was listening to an artist, I think it was Frank Cho, and he was talking about how, like, in the past, you can make up a shoe, and nobody cared because they weren't paying attention to the fact that the shoe wasn't real. And that these days, you better have your shoe anatomy right, because if you don't, if you're working in the industry and you don't have your shoe anatomy right, someone's going to point out that, your shoe is not correct to the standard proportions and the standard designs of Adidas and Nike or this or that, and, you're going to get into a tiff about, what something should look like. And so he did talk about that being a slight frustration when it came to designing apparel. That that's a thing now. And I want to say that it's thanks to Rob Liefeld as to the reason why that is the way it is now, because I think like when Rob designed Deadpool, he used realistic apparel in his design. So, you know, Deadpool is not wearing a generic something. It's like the boots he's wearing is like a real kind of boot. You know, the outfit he's wearing, you know, it's Kevlar made. You know, it's not like he just said, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna make a shape up, you know, out of thin air, and that's the shape. I'm gonna actually study. And if you know anything about Rob, like if you ever followed any of his work or followed the outrage that happened during his tenure as a comic artist, one of the first commercials I ever saw him in was a commercial that Spike Lee did, and Spike Lee did this commercial, and it was talking about, in this commercial, I think it was a Nike commercial. I'm gotta make sure I'm sure about that, but in this commercial, Rob is making a character, and he's calling the character Cameraman or something like that. And Spike Lee is interviewing him and saying, you know, well, why are you calling this guy Cameraman? And he's like, because, you know, he can, and Rob is like, he can, you know, take the best director shots and stuff like that. So that's why he's called Cameraman. It was just, you know, you never would think, like, when I saw this commercial as a kid, I never would think, like, years later, you know, Rob would be somebody, and you could say, hey, there was that commercial that he did a long time ago, you know, with Spike Lee, and it was about, you know, a Nike shoe, and they were talking about, you know, why he was making this piece of artwork, okay? But even in that commercial, you could see him drawing like a Spike Lee looking character, and you could see like his camera that he was drawing was like, the camera that the Spike Lee character was carrying was like extremely highly detailed. It looked like a real camera. It didn't look like he was making it up, a comic book camera up. And so you could see like his philosophy at the beginning. And he was one of those artists that he didn't come through the door with a degree in art and design and, you know, just suddenly learn how to do it. He had to learn the hard way. He had to take stripes to get his artwork to look good. So I agree. I argue that every artist has to take their stripes. It doesn't matter if you went to college or not. You still have to take your stripes, because when you come out of college, you come into what's called the real world. And in the real world, you still have to perform. And whether you're like me or not, you know, where you just don't work for those companies, or you do, you know, you still need to know your stuff. And so it goes. And so he had to, you know, he had to learn some things the hard way. One of the things that he did that, you know, wasn't that great is Todd McFarlane got pissed at him. Todd McFarlane wanted to do something, and he didn't want to do it, and so he just told Todd McFarlane do what he could do with himself. And I think that was the year of the outrage, where like people started finding his old works and stuff he had did for stuff that might not even got printed, and they just started ragging on him. I remember when I was in high school, one of the students in high school that I went to was very good at comic book art. He had worked in a comic book shop, and he was real good at comic book art. And when he talked about Rob Liefeld, you would think that Rob Liefeld was garbage, because he would just rag on how bad Rob Liefeld's artwork was. And it didn't dawn on me later, because I was more of an admirer of comic books and not an admirer of the people who created them. But it didn't dawn on me till many years later that what was going on was that Rob had left Image. And the Image fanboys didn't like it. And so they used all of their power to try and demean anything he had done. And that's what was going on with that. And so for years I thought Rob Liefeld was a terrible artist. I didn't know that he wasn't a terrible artist, because just because of that peer pressure, oh, you shouldn't like this guy because he used to work for Image and now he ain't working for Image and he's just shit, But that's what happens sometimes when you're doing stuff for people and it's popular one minute and then the next minute it's not. That's what happens. You might get tarred and feathered. And the tar and feathering that goes on these days is just over the top, more so than it was, back in my day. I mean, you might have tarred and feathered somebody, but it didn't stay on the internet and it wasn't in print and it didn't have a life, and where it just continued and continued and continued for years after the tar and feathering. And now today it's just way over the top. Sometimes I wonder, like, you hear about an actor or someone being outraged about something, and you read why they were outraged, and it doesn't make sense. It's just weird. You're like, well, why was that a topic to begin with? Why did it become what it became? Speaking of that student that I went to school with that worked at the comic book shop, I probably was his Rob Liefeld. I don't think that student ever really liked me that much. And tell you the truth, I don't know if I paid attention to whether I was liked or not in high school too much from different people. It was like, I either am cool or I'm not. That was just my way of. I was very. I got to say, in high school, I was stoic. I didn't care about in crowds. I didn't care about being a part of somebody else's party. I was very into my own self, and I did weird nerd stuff that I look back later and I was like, man, I was really weird. Like, I carry portfolios around of artwork that I had. I just carry it from class to class. Just characters that I created. I just stuck in a portfolio. Probably still got some of those portfolios today. And I should probably go back through them and start repurposing those characters. But I was the weirdo in high school. I was doing the weird shit like that, you know. Where everybody else was worried about whether so-and-so liked them and who they were going to go to the prom with and who was the bully, who was, you know, being an asshole. I in-gamed around all of that, and I did not make any connections with hardly anybody. And that's probably why I'm not extremely popular today. I don't have a whole lot of friends right now. I had some girl. I must have knew her in my last year of high school, because I honestly did not remember this girl at all. And she produced a picture I had printed out and given to her. And at first I thought I was like, oh, is that the original one? You know, because I thought that was, you know, the original picture that I had done. But it wasn't. It was a print of my original picture. And it was weird because she thought it was the original picture when she showed it to me later, these years later. She just showed it to me like maybe a couple of months ago. And I was like, you know, I looked, and I was like, oh, I still got that picture. It's still in my possession. The original is still in my possession. But she must have was coming in as I was leaving. So it had to be my senior year. And honestly, I gotta tell you the truth, I don't remember giving any picture to any. I might have given a few pictures to some girls, but I don't think girls you really cared about artists. They, you know, at least the ones I knew didn't. So I just, you know, I just lived in my own world. Which I kind of still am in my own world. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not hurting anybody in my own world, so I guess as long as I'm not hurting someone, that's good, right? All right, I think I'm good with the shoes. Now I just need to think about the socks. And we could go with green socks, or we could go with purple socks. So I put the designs in the shoes, so I could put a name, like a little brand on the shoe. That would be kind of cool. Just one of my own little brand. But I don't know, if I do that, maybe that'll be post-production stuff, not pre-production, not during the stream. Okay, so I'm going to work some shadow shapes into the shoes. And let's take a look and see what the feet look like for the shadow shapes. We're going to disappear the clothes a little bit here. And I can't see the feet because of the socks. So I'm going to take the socks off. So let's take the socks off for a second. Okay. And let's put the feet. Let's do that again. And so the shadow is more towards the inside than it is towards the outside. And I believe I said that I might go back and fix the shadow on this right foot, because I think that it needed more shadow. All right, so that's going to be simple enough. I'm just going to darken all of this in. And as you can see, this is a darker color, you know, except for the light green. So that means that I can probably get away with making this color even darker. And rather than, you know, trying to edge everything out right now, just do a blanket color, blanket shadow. And then later on I can go back and I can edge, line, light, and all that into there. Make it look more like it's in shadow, like you know, like it's the shadows being influenced by the bumping of the texture of the shoe, the light hitting the shoe. I'm sorry if I'm sounding confused here. I'll say it again. So I can go back later and I can take out and apply light and tinting up so that the light source will feel like it's being affected by the designs and the bumping of the designs on the material that makes up the shoe. So it'll make it feel like the shoe is made out of material instead of just being flat, which is what it feels like right now. Okay. Now, I did the gloves. The gloves don't need to be symmetrical, but right now I want to leave them that way. And I've done the shirt, and I got to do the earrings. And so before I go to any of that, let's just step backwards to a darker, to the black on the gray scale, to the darker. And that's going to lift out. We're going to lift out some of the light, or what I like to call the actual color, so that it feels like it's rounded. So we're tinting up the actual color here. And that's tinted up. And there we go. Just enough. And see how that looks? That looks good. That looks awesome. Okay. Do the same thing to the butt. into the to the leg. Okay. And that wiggly organic line that I'm giving, makes it feel like it's the material is like wiggly and kind of baggy. But if I wanted to make it feel more like it's tighter to the skin, I can go back later and erase some of the silhouette, and that'll make it feel like it's tighter to the skin. And so as you can see, it's just very simple. It takes complication to get simple. So, it's not easy. I know I make it look easy, but it takes remembering and being more complicated at first before you could get simple. And it's like I was saying about stages, working in a stage, and not sitting there and trying to hold all of that stuff in your brain, because when you do that, you tire your brain out. Your brain is just like the rest of your body. It gets tired. And even though, like, I like to say that what your brain does sometimes is sometimes it will trick your body into thinking that it's not as tired as it actually is. Have you ever had that thing where, like, you're trying to get a child to go to sleep and the child does not want to go to sleep? That is because the brain is tricking the body, the child's body, into believing that something else is going to happen in the next couple of minutes, then it's going to miss it. And so it needs to stay awake so that it doesn't miss the thing that's going to happen. And so that's why, like, a child will fight, that it is not sleepy when it actually is. That's when you know you're at your most sleepiness, is when your body is fighting that it doesn't want to go to sleep. And so it's the same thing with art. And the difference, I guess one thing I would say, not necessarily the difference, but I guess one thing I would say with, like, drawing and painting, is that because you're using the part of your brain that you would use when you go to sleep, which is the relaxing part, your brain is tricking you even more with being tired or not being tired when you are tired. And so I've come up with this rule that at a certain period of time, I got to stop drawing, I got to stop coloring, and I got to relax. And I got to do something else. Because if you don't, your brain will want to stay in that perpetual mode that says to the rest of your body that it's not tired. You're not tired. You could keep going. You could keep going. And you just gotta tell your body, no, I cannot keep going. I gotta stop. It's gotta stop. We cannot keep going. I think I just noticed something here. And I was right. Right, so now we're going to do this. And so, what I'm saying is like your mind can trick your body. And your mind can make your body believe that it is not worn out when it is. And so you have to know when your mind is doing that, you got to know that at that period of time you are at your peak time where you should be resting or falling asleep or getting a good night rest or something like that. And when you're making something like you're creating art, your body is in that dream relaxed state, because that's what the creative state is. Is this dream state in which colors and shapes make more sense than reality, than logic. And so your body is saying, oh, this is a pleasant place to be. This is what I want to do. There's nothing else to do. This is what I want to do. This is the way it should go. And so you have to know when to just say to your body, nope, tired, need to go to sleep. And I'm noticing all kinds of stuff. Okay, I didn't put the gloves into the right shading. Now I got them in the right shading. Let's go back. All right. As they said in the Matrix, the body cannot live without the mind. It's a true statement. And the mind likes to stay awake as long as it can because it feels like it's alive when it's awake. So yeah, when you hear creative people like, oh man, I'm burnt out, it's because they're overworking themselves. That's why they're burnt out. When you hear a creative person say, oh man, I can't come up with anything, I have a block, it's because they are not doing the small things that help keep those blocks away. Which is like you thumbnail sketch instead of draw. You make small drawings. You make little tiny pictorials instead of trying to make big, huge artwork. All right. I think all I have left now is the earrings. And then I will bring this stream will be brought to a state of completion after I get the earrings in there. And then anything I do in the background will be, after stream. And once that's all completed, then I will present the full illustration to my websites. And if you want to know where my websites are located, all you have to do is follow my social medias. The majority of them are under the name CartoonistLewd. And then you will be you'll be able to find my artwork doing that. So I'm going to give myself a small break before I finish the earrings. So I'm going to go off. I'm going to go off mic. Oh, undo. Thank you. I don't want to do a color drop. Okay, so I just came back to give a summary on everything that I have done. Added some lighting shapes and some shadow shapes to the earrings and the actual color to the earrings. I added some highlights to parts of the clothing, and that, I believe, is about it. Everything else that I do in this image will be post-production work, and then when the image is completed, I will put the image up on my social media accounts and on my website. Actually, I think my website will get the image first, and then my social media accounts will get the link to the image, and it will link from the website. So it'll link directly into the website. I want to thank anybody who watched this stream during the stream. Thank you for watching. And anybody who tunes in to this stream, whether it be on Twitch itself or whether you tune in later on my Facebook or YouTube accounts to see the recording archive. Thank you for watching. I hope I have been entertaining. I hope I've been informational on what I am doing. And I hope that my rambling wasn't too bad to listen to. Going to give you a TTFN. And once again, I want to thank you for joining me, and have a wonderful rest of your day.